There are moments in life that shatter your perception of the people you thought you knew best. Sometimes, those moments involve realizing that the grief you're navigating is seen by others not as pain to be soothed, but as an opportunity to exploit. My daughter's death left a void in my life, a quiet space filled only with memories and the ache of loss. I thought my family, my son and his wife, would be a comfort. Instead, their actions twisted the knife, revealing a betrayal so deep it threatened to take everything I had left. They saw my vulnerability, my sorrow, and decided it was the perfect time to try and take my home. Before we dive into the story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below, and if you believe family should protect, not exploit each other. Hit that like button and subscribe for more. Losing Sarah, my only daughter, had been like losing a piece of myself. We were close, sharing secrets and laughter, supporting each other through life's challenges. Her sudden illness and rapid decline left me reeling. In the aftermath, my son, Mark, and his wife, Sarah, the same name, which now feels like a cruel irony, seemed supportive. They brought over casseroles, offered to help around the house, and checked in daily. Their presence felt like a thin buffer against the overwhelming silence in my home. I welcomed their attention, clinging to the idea that we were a unit, bound by shared grief and love for the daughter and sister we had lost. My home was more than just a house, it was the repository of my life. My late husband, David, and I had bought it 50 years ago. Every room held memories, Sarah's height marked on a door frame, the faint scent of David's pipe tobacco in his study, the garden where I'd spent countless hours tending roses Sarah loved. It was fully paid for, a secure asset that represented a lifetime of hard work and careful saving. David had ensured everything was straightforward. The deed was solely in my name after he passed, a simple, clear document that had always felt like a symbol of my independence and security. Mark and Sarah had their own struggles. Mark's construction business had seen better days, and Sarah worked part-time, but they always seemed to be just scraping by. Over the years, David and I had helped them out repeatedly. A down payment on their first car, help with rent when times were tough, even a substantial loan to help Mark start his business, which they'd never fully repaid. We didn't mind. That's what family did. You supported each other. You trusted each other. That trust was, I now realize, a vulnerability they were banking on. Mark and Sarah came over frequently after the funeral. The first hints were subtle, disguised as concern. "Mom, are you sure you should be living here all alone?" Sarah would ask, her voice dripping with faux sympathy. "It's a big house, a lot of upkeep." Mark would chime in, "Yeah, Mom, maybe something smaller would be easier." Less stress. They talked about my grief as if it were a disability requiring immediate intervention, rather than a natural process of healing. "You seem so fragile," Sarah observed one afternoon, watching me absent-mindedly water a wilting plant. "Maybe you need someone to look after you more closely." I initially dismissed these comments. Of course I was fragile. I'd just lost my daughter. And yes, the house felt large and quiet, but it was my quiet space. It was filled with Sarah. Selling it, moving, felt unthinkable. It felt like burying another part of my life. I told them gently that I wasn't ready to think about moving, that being in my home, surrounded by memories, was helping me cope. They smiled and nodded, but I saw a flicker of something in Sarah's eyes, impatience, frustration. One evening, they were downstairs, packing up some of Sarah's things that I had kept. I was upstairs, going through old photo albums, when I heard snippets of their conversation drifting up the stairwell. They weren't talking about Sarah. They were talking about the house. "Worth at least $500,000, maybe more with a bit of work," I heard Mark say. "Exactly," Sarah replied, her voice sharper than I usually heard it. "And it's just sitting here. Mom doesn't need all this space. She's alone now." "She's grieving," Mark said, but his tone was neutral, not protective. "Grieving makes people do strange things," Sarah countered. "Makes them forget what's practical. It's our responsibility to make sure she's taken care of." And frankly, This house would solve everything. We could sell ours, combine the money, maybe do some renovations here, flip it, or even live here for a while if we wanted. It's the obvious solution. But it's Mom's house, Mark said, a slight hesitation in his voice. It's the house, Sarah corrected, emphasis heavy on the "and it's our future." She's got the deed, yes, but she's not thinking straight. We just need to guide her. Gently, of course. Make her see it's for her own good. My breath caught in my throat. Guide me? For my own good? The words felt like ice water. They weren't offering comfort. They were calculating. My grief wasn't something they understood or shared. It was a window of opportunity. I crept closer to the top of the stairs, my heart pounding. I heard Sarah outline a plan, suggesting I needed a live-in helper who could report back to them, talking about getting a financial power of attorney, just to make things easier, mentioning looking into assisted living facilities that were more suitable for someone her age. I didn't hear Mark argue. I heard him mostly agree, asking logistical questions, talking about timelines. They weren't just thinking about my house, they were planning my future for me, a future that involved removing me from my home and taking control of my assets. The daughter they spoke of was gone, and now they were trying to orchestrate the quiet disappearance of the mother, wrapped up in convenient narratives of care and practicality. I backed away from the stairs, my legs trembling. Denial warred with the undeniable evidence of their words. No, they couldn't mean that. They loved me. They were just worried. Maybe I was being overly emotional. But the calculating tone, the focus on the value of the house, the dismissal of my feelings, it was too clear. That night, sleep was impossible. Their words echoed in my mind. It's our future, guide her, make her see it's for her own good. I thought of Sarah, my daughter. She would have been furious. She cherished my independence, my home. This wasn't care. This was vulture behavior, circling a perceived weakness. My first defensive action was small, almost instinctive. I went to the old metal box where I kept important papers. The deed was there, tucked inside a plastic sleeve, crisp and official. My name was on it, clear and undisputed. I held it for a long moment, a tangible piece of my security. I locked the box and put it in a different, more secure place. I also changed the passwords to my online banking and email accounts. It felt paranoid, but their conversation had ignited a cold, sharp edge of suspicion in me. The trusting nature that had defined my relationship with them for so long was beginning to crack. The manipulation escalated quickly after that night. Sarah started dropping hints about my health. "Mom, you seem a bit forgetful lately," she'd say, when I misplaced my keys, something I did regularly even before Sarah died. "Are you sure you're remembering to take all your pills?" She'd hover when I was cooking, asking if I needed help, suggesting the stove might be a hazard. They began talking more explicitly about my finances, asking about my savings, my pension, how much money David had left me. "Just so we know how to help you manage everything," Mark said casually one lunch. "I manage fine," I replied, keeping my voice calm, though my hands trembled slightly under the table. "Of course you do," Sarah said, patting my hand with a patronizing smile. "But it's a lot to handle alone. Taxes, bills, all that paperwork." I started documenting everything. A small notebook appeared by my chair where I jotted down dates and times of their visits, specific comments they made, manipulative questions, and hints. I saved every text message, every email that pushed for information or suggested I needed their help. I bought a small, discreet voice recorder recommended by a friend who'd had similar family issues and began carrying it in my pocket, activating it when they were around. It felt sneaky, underhanded, but their actions felt predatory. One afternoon, Sarah arrived unannounced with brochures for retirement communities. "Just taking a look, Mom," she chirped, spreading them across my coffee table. "Some lovely places. So many activities. And no stairs." I looked at the glossy photos of strangers playing bingo and eating in communal dining rooms. "Sarah, I've told you, I'm not moving," I said firmly. Her smile tightened. But you should be considering it, Mom. It's the responsible thing to do. For your future. We worry about you here. All alone. I'm not alone, I said, thinking of David and Sarah, present in every corner of the house. And I'm not considering leaving my home. Sarah leaned forward, her voice dropping. This was the second mandatory antagonist cameo, and her facade of gentle concern dropped away completely. Mom, let's be realistic. You're not getting any younger. This house is too much. And frankly, Mark and I could really use the financial stability selling this place would provide. It would help us secure our future. Don't you want to help your only son? Her eyes were hard, devoid of the sympathy she usually faked. It wasn't about me. It was explicitly about them and their need for my assets. That conversation was the final push. The hurt turned to cold anger, a quiet determination. I wasn't an invalid. I wasn't forgetful. I was a woman who had worked hard, built a life, and was perfectly capable of managing my own affairs, even while grieving. Their naked greed, their willingness to discard my feelings and my home for their financial gain, solidified my resolve. I would not be manipulated. I would not be pushed out of my home. The next morning, I called the lawyer recommended by my friend, a kind, sharp woman named Ms. Thompson who specialized in elder law and property rights. I explained the situation, the overheard conversation, the escalating pressure, the focus on the deed, the assisted living brochures. I brought my notebook, printed emails, and text messages. Ms. Thompson listened patiently, her expression growing sterner as I spoke. When I finished, she nodded. This is classic financial elder abuse and attempted undue influence, she said matter-of-factly. They're attempting to manipulate you into signing over assets or giving them control. The good news is, you are lucid, you are aware, and the deed is firmly in your name. Unless they can prove you are mentally incompetent, which, based on what you've told me and my observation of you, seems highly unlikely, they have zero legal claim to your property. She advised me on several steps. First, formalize the documentation. Keep recording, keep noting everything. Second, secure all financial accounts. I visited my bank and added stronger security measures, alerted them to potential manipulative inquiries, and double-checked that Mark had no access. He didn't, but the lawyer said vigilance was key. Third, draft legal documents protecting myself further. Updated power of attorney naming a trusted friend, not family, for healthcare, and a simple will confirming my wishes regarding my assets, leaving everything away from Mark and Sarah unless they ceased all harassment and proved genuine remorse over a significant period, which I doubted would happen. The lawyer also suggested a polite, but firm, letter from her office, stating I was fully aware of my property rights, was managing my finances independently, and considered any attempts to pressure or manipulate me as harassment. This would put them on formal notice. While Ms. Thompson worked on the letter, Mark and Sarah continued their campaign. Sarah called in a panic one day, claiming she'd heard on the news about a string of burglaries in my neighborhood. A quick check of local news online showed this was false. She insisted I needed an expensive security system that day and had a company she trusted ready to install it, offering to pay but needing my banking information for the deposit. Another day, Mark claimed his business was facing a sudden, urgent cash flow crisis that would bankrupt him if I didn't lend him a significant sum immediately, suggesting the house could be used as temporary collateral on paper just for a few weeks. These fake emergencies were transparent attempts to get me to sign something or reveal financial details. I calmly declined both, citing the need to discuss it with my financial advisor, a fictional person I invented on the spot. My resolve hardened with each attempt. They weren't just trying to get money, they were trying to trap me. But I had my legal weapon, the deed, safely tucked away, its legal standing confirmed. I had my documentation, growing daily. I had my lawyer, a quiet force working behind the scenes. The turning point, the smoking gun, arrived unexpectedly. Sarah had left her laptop at my house after one visit. I debated looking at it, feeling a pang of guilt, but the lawyer had advised me to gather any evidence I could find legally. The laptop wasn't password protected. I found a folder titled Mom's Future. Inside were emails between Sarah and Mark, subject lines like assisted living options, cheap, house valuation, and legal loopholes, elderly parents. One email was to a real estate agent, asking for a quick appraisal of my house and how fast a sale could be closed. Another was a draft letter to a court, expressing concern about my deteriorating mental state and suggesting a need for a guardianship hearing. It was filled with exaggerations and outright lies about my forgetfulness, my inability to care for myself, even mentioning the burglaries Sarah had invented. They were actively preparing to challenge my competency in court to gain control. Reading those emails, seeing the calculated malice in their plan, eliminated any lingering doubt. This wasn't misguided concern, it was a cold, planned attack. My initial shock and hurt transformed into a fierce, protective anger. Not just for myself, but for the memory of my daughter, who would have been devastated by their actions. I printed everything, saved it to a USB drive, and immediately sent copies to Ms. Thompson. This was the definitive proof, the legal weapon I needed. They weren't just talking, they were actively moving to strip me of my rights and my home. With the smoking gun in hand, Ms. Thompson moved swiftly. She incorporated the email evidence into a comprehensive legal action. It wasn't just a cease and desist letter anymore. We filed for a restraining order against Mark and Sarah, citing harassment, attempted financial exploitation, and the documented plan to challenge my competency based on fabricated claims. We also filed a formal legal notification with the county, reaffirming my sole ownership of the property via the undisputed deed and stating any claims made by Mark or Sarah were fraudulent and without merit. The counter-strategy was in motion. Don't just defend, put them on the defensive. The final stage, the climax, began with the serving of the legal documents. A process server delivered the papers to Mark and Sarah at their home. The restraining order meant they were forbidden from contacting me, entering my property, or discussing my finances or living situation with third parties. The county filing meant their real estate schemes were dead in the water. No legitimate agent would touch the property with that notice attached, and their planned guardianship challenge now looked like a retaliatory, malicious action in light of the evidence I possessed. Their reaction was immediate and panicked. My phone, which they were now technically forbidden from calling, rang off the hook. Mark left furious voicemails, demanding to know what I thought I was doing, accusing me of being crazy and ungrateful. Sarah sent a stream of increasingly desperate text messages, filled with accusations. You're isolating yourself. Guilt trips. Think of your grandchildren. And finally, pathetic apologies. We were just worried. We didn't mean any harm. I didn't answer. I didn't respond. I was following Ms. Thompson's strict instructions. No contact. My silence, my calm adherence to the legal boundaries, amplified their panic. They had expected a frail, grieving woman they could easily manipulate. They found a woman who had quietly gathered evidence, sought professional help, and used the legal system to protect herself. They had planned to use the deed against me, perhaps convincing me to sign it over or claiming I was too incompetent to understand it. Instead, I had used the deed, its undeniable legal validity in my name, as the cornerstone of my defense and counterattack. The deed, combined with their own documented words and actions, was proof that they, not I, were the ones attempting a calculated deception. News of the legal action, and the reasons behind it, spread quickly through our extended family. Sarah had been so busy spreading rumors about me that when the truth came out, backed by court documents and the evidence I shared, through my lawyer, to control the narrative, the backlash against Mark and Sarah was swift. Family members who had been quietly enabling them or pressuring me to keep the peace suddenly went silent or offered hesitant support. Mark and Sarah's desperation tactics failed. Their attempts to claim they were misunderstood or that I was mentally unstable were undermined by their own documented plan and the clear evidence that I had methodically built my case. In the immediate aftermath, the silence in my home felt different. It was no longer just the emptiness left by grief. It was also the quiet that follows a storm. The restraining order meant Mark and Sarah were gone from my life, their manipulative presence replaced by an enforced absence. Ms. Thompson confirmed that their attempts to challenge the restraining order and the property filing had failed. The court saw their actions for what they were. My home was safe, legally and physically. Mark and Sarah faced the consequences of their greed. The failed plot ruined their reputation within the family and put them in a precarious financial position, having wasted money on legal attempts that went nowhere. My new boundaries were clear and firm: no contact, no exceptions. My home was a sanctuary again, protected not just by locks and alarms, but by legal steel forged in the quiet fire of my resolve. Alone in my living room, the afternoon sun warming my face, I felt a profound sense of peace. It was a peace earned through pain and vigilance, not given freely. I had stood up for myself, for my home, and for the memory of my daughter. The grief remained, a constant companion, but it was no longer a vulnerability for others to exploit. I had faced betrayal and responded not with loud anger, but with quiet strength and strategic action. My home was mine, my life was mine, and no one would ever take them from me again. The family ties were severed, irrevocably changed by the poison of their greed, but I had survived. I had protected what was mine. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, give this video a like if you haven't already, and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself.